Yeah. How many of you have seen cinematic movie masterpiece Burlesque with Christina Aguilera, Cher, Stanley Tucci, Alan Cummings?
We're asking the really important questions today.
It's recently on Netflix.
It's not what this panel is about, but it is a movie about women, so it's not completely unrelated.
Women and Stanley Tucci.
Look, we can get into like who gets to count when talking about women in gaming, you know? And if you want to make the argument for Stanley Tucci, I'm willing to hear it.
I would say that Stanley Tucci should count as a woman because that's the whole argument. Because that really good show he did about eating food around Italy, and I just feel like we deserve him.
We still have a few minutes before we actually start.
I was going to say, we haven't even started yet, and we're already off the rails. I love it.
It's really good, too.
Right?
It's really good.
Emotionally intelligent icon, Stanley Tucci. I like your sweater. Oh, I really like your hoodie too.
Yeah.
Hey everybody. We're gonna start in a minute.
We didn't count the cover.
Welcome to the Women in Gaming panel. Yay! Can we close just one of the doors and leave one open so if people wander in and think we're cool, they'll come and join us?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, hey everybody. Welcome to the Women in Gaming panel. My name is Silviana Russo. I work for MAGFest, and I make ARGs, which is a type of game we are not going to talk about. Nobody knows what they are. I don't know what they are, but they are games, and I make them for MAGFest. And I have gathered this group of real professional women in the games industry to talk about a variety of topics related to women in gaming. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves. And as you introduce yourself, can you give a very brief what drew you to the games industry as a profession?
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is AshSaidHi on social media and the internet spaces. You can call me Ash. My pronouns are she, her. And I am a broadcaster on Twitch, a Twitch ambassador. I previously led the Twitch Women's Guild, which is a space for women and femme-presenting people and non-binary people to meet other people who stream and do cool things on Twitch. I also worked in the games industry for over a decade, and I just stream and play retro games online. So it's really cool. What drew me to it? I mean, I've been playing video games all my life. My mother and father are big gamers, and it's just been a part of my DNA ever since, little baby Ash existed.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Erin Truesdell. I hope you can hear me. Some of you may know me as the person responsible for the giant hat in the expo hall. I am an alternative controller developer and also a professor at the New Jersey Institute of Technology, where I research games, play, education, and healthcare, kind of lots of things that intersect there, as well as make more weird alt controls. I didn't really get into gaming until college. Like, I'd played video games before then, but it was not until I think I was probably 18 or 19 that I realized like the joy and the social potential of play. And that was kind of what put me on the path that I've ended up on today, and the reason that I get to be a video game scientist, which I firmly believe is the coolest job in the world.
Mm-hmm. Hey, I'm Rowan Hall. I'm one of the game designers over at Darrington Press, which is Critical Role's imprint. I was one of the lead game designers on Candela Obscura. I'm also one of the game designers for Daggerheart. I got into game design because at the time I was a podcaster and mythologist, and I met Spencer, who invited me to work on Candela Obscura with him, and he couldn't get rid of me, I guess. I I really love it as a method of storytelling. I previously worked in film and TV and still work in film and TV. I also work in video games. I was one of the game designers of Sunderfolk, which also came out last year. So I like it as a storytelling medium because I like that I'm perpetually engaging with the audience as I work in it.
And my name's Elise Rezendes. I'm the senior RPG producer for Daggerheart. I'm also the founder and owner of my own game company, and so I've been building, but not only indie games, but games for other companies for now over 8 years. And I got into games in general because I am a storyteller. I also came in through the narrative vein. I'm also a maker and a crafter. So I found this as an industry overall because I started making terrain pieces professionally. And it has always been a big mode of creation for me. And it has been a real honor to be able to do that with some of the incredible folks that we have in the industry here.
So I don't know if the panelists know this, and I don't know how many of you know this, but there are a lot of women at MAGFest, and there are a lot of women who run MAGFest. It would be accurate to say that MAGFest is a women-led organization. Both the executive director and the board president are women. I think the board is majority women. And that doesn't surprise me because there are a lot of women who play games. There are a lot of women who love games. But I've certainly found that the conventional wisdom around gaming as a hobby is very male-centric. And it's true that conventional wisdom often lags behind reality, and much of the media that we make serves to bring it up to what the reality is. What I want to ask each of you, what do you think people could do, we could do as game creators or as game players to change the conventional wisdom that games are for men?
We did that in Daggerheart by changing who looked heroic, not only on our pages, but very much on our cover. Rowan, do you want to talk about the cover of Daggerheart and why we made some of the decisions that we made for that piece specifically?
As far as the art for Daggerheart goes, there was a huge amount of work put into tracking demographics. And that includes masc versus femme presenting. It includes race. We're constantly asking people on the team, what race do you perceive this character as, and kind of tagging them. It was ethnic background, it's clothing, it's hair type, it's everything, it's body type. Elise worked really hard to make us these brilliant rubrics of what words we assign to different body types so that we can pass it along to artists and they know what we mean when we say words like someone with a fat body, someone with a thin body. And when we got to the end of the book, when we were close to the end of the book, our team is majority femme. We went, oh no, there aren't enough boys.
Specifically, we were lacking white men.
Like white Mr. like what I call Mr. McDude McGuy. Like, guy in armor.
Guy TM.
And the lead game designer for Daggerheart, Spencer Stark, is a man, and we sorted this problem out. And then when we got to the cover, he was actually the largest advocate for making sure that the cover was majority and predominantly femme. Because if we didn't do it, it would just kind of default. And it would look majority masc. And it was really important that people see themselves in Daggerheart and kind of see the team that made it. And I think having especially a woman as like the biggest figure on the cover of Daggerheart makes it really clear what type of fantasy we are creating. And by that, I mean, 51% of the world is women?
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah, and I think that the most important thing, when we were talking to our artists, and even in getting concept art for these things, it was so hard to find reference photos for the majority of what we were trying to get our artists to do. And it was really hard to get anybody to paint anybody that wasn't anime thin. we talked to a lot of consultants, and I was really proud of the work that we did in the beginning there of like, hey, we're going to use the word fat, and it is not a bad word, just in the way that thin is not a bad word. Like, we are talking about people's bodies, people's abilities, their ancestry, which is the body shape they have or type they have inside of Daggerheart, and then the real world equivalent of their ethnicity as well, because all of those vectors have to be taken into account because we are going to be then playing this game in the real world. And I think that if you want to change the way your game is seen, you have to change the camera and what you are showing to be seen in your games. It's a very quick way to change the entire conversation about it because you're showing something new on the page itself.
I think there's also a lot to be said for kind of smaller choices as well. I think one of the conversations I find myself having a lot is that, we know actually, I think it's a majority, but if not a majority, a huge number of gamers are women, but a lot of them don't consider themselves gamers. And I find myself having a lot of conversations about legitimacy, right? What is a legitimate game? What is a legitimate gamer? What gives you the right to call yourself a gamer? And so one of the things I've been trying to do lately is, I work and live in games-based spaces, and people often ask me like, hey, what are you playing right now? And the reality is like, I haven't been playing a lot of PC games because I've been running all over the place doing various things. And so one of the things that I think we talk about is like, what's anything that's on the list for something like Game of the Year, right? It's all PC and console games. And one of the things that we see a lot of women gamers playing are mobile games, and they're not seen as legitimate. Candy Crush is a game for middle-aged women, and they're not real gamers. And so one of the things I've been trying to do is talk up the mobile games that I am playing. I'm like, hey, I'm playing this silly little mobile game. I'm gaming. I'm having a great time, and I am still playing a game. And so even those little things, when somebody asks, what are you playing? Making sure that you're thinking maybe beyond that TV or monitor, and maybe thinking about that smaller screen in those conversations.
I am so guilty of not seeing mobile games as real games, but I can't tell you how many women I've talked to in the past year who are so excited about Infinity Nikki, the dress-up game.
Yeah.
And it's the first time that I've seen a mobile game really break through in that way, and that is a game for women.
I think as a game player, be loud about what you support, and if you have friends that play games like Call of Duty and, all of those games that have a very male-centric audience, if you see something going on, like this person's being discriminated against, or this person's having a hard time, or they're having a hard time finding a team member or whatever, be open about your experiences. I think nowadays with the internet, yes, people are more open than they were before, but it's still prevalent about, what kind of experience you're having. Like if I'm playing Valorant or, Fortnite or whatever, and people are having experiences where they're feeling othered. And find your game spaces where you're finding other people who are playing games like you. There's so many Discord community spaces in events like this where you can meet people who are playing these games, because a lot of times people are like, oh, well, I'm the only one. No, you're not. You're not, And also be loud about supporting devs who create games that showcase, experiences other than the typical experience. The first time I played a game where I could select a character that looked like me, that was a moving experience for me, which I know we'll talk about later, but Can
we talk about that now? I actually would love to talk about representation of female characters in games. And you play a lot of retro games, you play a lot of older games, but you also play new games. Yeah. And I would love to know about your experience of seeing it change over time.
Yeah, it really made a huge difference to me to be able to play a character that I can pick hair texture that matched mine. That was, I didn't think it would impact me the way that it did. But being able to play a character where the skin color matched, the hair texture matched, and I could pick my pronouns were it was wow, I could really feel like I'm a part of this world. But like you said, obviously, playing games, I play a lot of RPGs, and you're playing in a fantasy world. You're supposed to, it's like an interactive book, right? and you are like this character, whatever it is that you might not see yourself in. But then once that started to shift, you know, and I'm playing games today, like a lot of indie developers making games that I feel like I can actually be in, I was like, oh my God, like this is so cool. Like, how many other people felt the way that I felt and now feel represented, you know, and they could be the hero. So it's really important.
Elise, I know you thought about hair textures when designing the Daggerheart art as well.
Yeah, I did that so I've got the Session Zero system is a system agnostic building game that allows you to create your backstory at the table. And we did I brought my experience with like 60 pieces of art in that small game and what we had built there to the team at Daggerheart. And we talked about the kind of rubrics that we would need to be able to track that. And for Daggerheart, there were a lot of conversations about like, okay, what hairstyles are out there in media right now? And we also got a lot of feedback of like, hey, there are hairstyles that feel overdone because it's now like the hairstyle if you're doing a certain type of person or a certain type of body shape.
The Killmonger haircut.
Everyone was like, if you're gonna have another person, like no more Killmonger haircut, because it just like, and it's one of those things where like all of a sudden in media you have these dominoes, and that piece of feedback, especially during our open beta, it was so valuable to us because again, it was also we're working with artists all over the world whose first language might not be English. So we're also going through communicating with imagery and with prompts and with feedback rounds. It was so important for us to be able to, again, reset the default and not just go for the easy answer. It took a lot of iteration. I mean, some of those pieces, the notes that we left, Rowan, you in particular, because at Daggerheart, originally, you and I basically rebuilt how we did art internally at the company, and it made for some long revision processes with the artists. But the feedback that every time I see one of our artists in an artist alley, or if they do a roundup, the comments that they say is like, "Hey, this is the first time my son's been able to see him in art, and oh my gosh, like it's being shared by one of their favorite voiceover actors or one of their it matters." Mm-hmm. And to be at a position where we're spending other people's money to do it, it also means that we have a really big responsibility to do that at a level that is really impactful. And I think we're both very lucky to be able to do that in a way that also feels like we have the opportunity to make sure that there are more seats pulled up to a larger table, inviting more people to play games.
Can I jump in real quick? So there's a creator, two creators I'll tell you all about, Ebonics and X Mira Mira. And the reason why I'm bringing them up, these are black women that create black hair textures for The Sims. And they're some of my favorite people because they work really hard. Like, I think Mira learned 3D modeling just to be able to do this and make the packs available to people. Yeah. So more black people in the room, more people of color in the room, more women in the room. Like, you'll never hear me be like silent about that. So it's important because those conversations help drive others to have conversations in other games or other studios to look at this and be like, this got a huge reaction. A lot of people want to see more of this, so let's do more of this.
Let's talk a little bit about making games for women. Rowan, you are a female game designer, and you make games that you know will be played by women, among others. Is there, is there a female perspective on game design? Are there ways that you think about game design when you are thinking about female players who are going to be playing this game?
That's such a good question. I guess to start, one of the hills that I've decided I will die on, and that I've like put my flag and Elise has like had my back on a lot, is that the games that I make will have older women, period. And they will have older women that are the crone in the woods, but also are a lady knight, and that have crow's feet and smile lines and white hair and disabilities and all of those different things. And there are a lot of actual flags that I have put down on representation, but in particular for this panel, it's really important to me to feature older women because I think in society, older women are kind of tagged as irrelevant once you like pass, your childlike fuckability, I'm gonna say it, then you're kind of disregarded, and I think that's not only really problematic and disgusting, but also such a fucking bummer. Like, youth is not a personality trait, and hotness is not that exciting. And so I really, really want, especially because there are women in the gaming space who had to go into game stores that they felt unsafe and who had to sit at tables where men were unkind to them. I feel an immense amount of responsibility in the job that I am in to not only uplift younger women and women my age, but to look at the older women who fought really, really hard for me and support them. I think when I look at games and they have cited inspiration from Apocalypse World and they only credit Vincent Baker, I write them off. If you aren't crediting Meg and Vincent Baker, you are not crediting the game designers of the Powered by the Apocalypse system, period. And Meg has become a really good friend of mine, and I care about her quite a lot, but I felt that way before I knew her. And I think it's kind of my responsibility to uplift as many humans as I can. I also think, like, our team is majority femme, so our perspectives are accounted for in that way, and we are constantly looking at the holes of perspectives that aren't represented in any given room. And the other thing that I have like such a pet peeve about is when I'm the only game designer in the room, so our producers aren't around, artists, etc., and I'm the only woman, if I am the only one taking notes, ooh. And I have talked about this with Spencer, who I work most closely with, and a lot of men that we work closely with, and made it their responsibility to start taking notes, and if they think they're not good at taking notes, figure it out. Because I didn't get good at taking notes because I was born and raised as a girl. Like, that's not a personality trait, that's a skill. So I think that there's work to be done in the room, and then there's work like in the game as well. You mentioned a lot of things. Okay, let's
very
segue.
well said, by the way.
It's really good. Can we talk about outreach to women, getting more women into the hobby, into the industry? Erin, this is something that you work on.
Yeah, I'm going to try to temper my response only because I could talk about this for 3 hours.
Yeah.
It's something I'm really passionate about. I went to school for game design. The vast majority of my men colleagues were actually amazing. I was really, really lucky. We had one guy who was just like the worst. He ended up dropping out too, which was really funny. He was like not actually very good at anything. But one of the things, and one of the conversations I have a lot, because I do a lot of outreach to young women, we target like the middle school age. And one of the things I see people say a lot is like, oh, well, like I got to college and the women had all these supports and everyone really liked them and they had a really great time. And I'm like, yeah. Because if you're a woman who is 18 and still chooses to go into games, like this is survivorship bias at work. In all honesty, like you're not losing women at the college level, you're losing girls when they're 11 years old and they're told they have to choose between being pretty and being smart. And they're told that games are for boys and they're harassed by someone who is unkind to them. And so much of my work does target the middle school level because that's often when a lot of people decide to, oh, this is a thing I'm good at and that I'm going to pursue, versus, oh, I'm not good at this, I'm not going to focus on it for my teenage years and beyond. And so a lot of my work does focus on really young girls because, yeah, there were 6 women in my program of 39 people in college, and they were all phenomenal. There probably could have been more, but you didn't lose them at admissions. You lost them in 6th grade. Mm-hmm. And so I've got a couple of big projects out right now. My other big focus is rural youth, because I grew up in the middle of nowhere, right? And in a very, very small town in western New Hampshire, where forget women in video games, working in video games was just not a job that was on anybody's radar. And so what we're really trying to do is help youth build those skills, right? And I think it's this combination of you need to build some hard skills to build some of that confidence, right? Like I program my own game, right? That's a great feeling. Any of you in the room who have made any kind of digital game know that the feeling of accomplishment when you have made something and put it out into the world is like the best feeling on earth. Really great for your ego. And then also pairing that, I think maybe at those upper levels, with some real pragmatism. One of the best pieces of advice I ever got, I study play. I work in the academic sphere. Most academics don't think play is a very serious topic. I'm also very young. And so when I was on the job market, I already had 2 strikes against me. And my advisor told me, he said, I was in the same position as you, but I had a beard and I'm a dude. And you're going to have a harder time. And I had classmates who were like, wow, I can't believe you said that to you. I'm like, no, this was really great advice. Like, I don't want to go in not knowing what I'm up against. And so pairing that confidence building, skill building, community building, like you talked about, Ash, with those very real and unfortunate truths that like, you're going to have that one guy in your program who's just actually the worst. I could tell so many stories about this guy.
Yeah, but he dropped out.
But he dropped out and I made it, so. But it was nice having that combination because by the time I got to college, I had that confidence and I was like, this guy can't take me down. And I think that's so important. And so just engaging kids in making stuff goes a really long way.
Sometimes it's tough to be like the woman in a group of men, trying to do your work, not always being taken seriously. Sometimes even if you are being taken seriously, it's still tough to like look around and notice that you are in a room of all men. Elise, you are a senior producer, a job that is not uncommon for women, but you work with a lot of men.
I do. I have a very interesting experience as a woman. Not only am I white, not only did I grow up in a comfortable lower middle class household where like safety was not ever off the table. I also was 5'10" at 13. So
same.
There are experiences, and then a lot of the other femmes on our team are, and I'm also built like a linebacker, right? Like I'm a real big lady. A lot of other femmes on our team not only are short and slight, but are petite small. There is a difference in stature. I bought these shoes so that when my old boss was being rude to me, he would have to look up. Like there is a size and a physical experience in the space that makes a difference. So because I am a larger woman, my experience has been different. And I use that power for evil. I make all of the other femmes, not only in our department and on our team, but at our company in general, I try to advocate for things that make their lives easier and better. At some point, we had 2 of our juniors who didn't have fobs, and they're outside of the building trying to get it. Like those are not things that happen. Not on my watch, right? When we are in convention spaces, how I take up space in convention spaces, especially if we're on either panels of mostly men, etc., things that people say at the table, there are things that people say, there are things that people do that can make the space feel uncomfortable. I am a real big lady, and I have the privilege of being able to use that size in the real world to help stand up for people who either are not as comfortable or have not been raised in an environment where there is that deference, right? I only needed 1 inch on my shoe to have somebody look up. That is something that makes my experience make a difference. There is also a lot of, I ask myself this question all the time. Do you want to be right, or do you want to get what you want? Right? Like in a room of mostly men, do I want to be right and be outrageous and be irreverent and make them feel XYZ? Or do I want to be responsible for the outcome and get what I want? There is a lot of internal negotiations that you do when you are in a space that is not even necessarily hostile, but irreverent to your presence in the room that I pay attention to. And very often what that means is checking the ego in me that would like to spend the political capital in the moment to call somebody out on their bullshit, versus doing the work that gets them in that moment to where I might want them to get to so that the outcome is what I want. And it's a lot of fucking work to do that, right? And I have the privilege of being tall and large and white. So the work that I'm doing is already exponentially less. Those things, unfortunately, are things that are like mathematical computations that I have to do in every meeting that I'm in. But being able to be where I'm at, it is a privilege to do it because I know that down the road, that will be a legacy if I build it into the process and procedures of the teams that we're working with that will make spaces for people who come after me wildly better to work inside of. And that's the slow creep of water through the rock that leaves the gorge that people will come to see and wonder at, of like, look what was done here, right? It's a lot of work, but it is work that is very much valuable to me to do.
My soft skill queen.
They'll get there. We'll get them there. We'll get them there. We'll get them there.
Yeah, as someone who also experienced this in the workplace, like being told when it's time for your review that you're emotional, you know?
I could fucking take that word out back and beat the shit out of it.
Anger is an emotion.
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah, but because you're a woman, like I definitely felt like it was not evenly distributed, that kind of feedback, right? And I would often have times where if I made a decision or made a call on something and let's say I had a counterpart or a colleague, my colleague being asked the same set of questions because they wanted to make sure that what I was saying was correct, experiencing that kind of thing.
Ew.
Yeah. Or like even just in the streaming space as well, I have been playing games for many, many a decade, and when you have people come into your chat room and like want to test your knowledge, does this person really know? Or is that stuff like, in a room like a background, and they'll purposely come in to test your knowledge instead of be a part of the conversation. That's like a daily occurrence. Like you just got to know how to route around that. And that is something that if you want to know how to help people who are in a position like that, if you see nonsense like that, go on, say something about it.
Yeah.
I
find on our team, and I hope other people experience this as well, I'd be interested to know what your experiences are, because on our team, Spencer, Elise, and I actually were friends before we started working together. And we're very able to close ranks when we need to, which is to say, there is nothing that is said to me that Spencer and Elise don't find out about. And Elise is able to advocate in a very strong way that I cannot pull off, and I'm able to be more covertly in conversations that people don't have with her. I was in a meeting with an outside company, and I was giving notes to this company, and the gentleman who I was giving notes to wasn't hearing it. And so the man at our company who was on the meeting with me repeated everything I said and got them to agree to it. And after the meeting, he came to me and he was like, hey, I'm really sorry that I did that. We were not getting there and we needed that. And I was like, no. I was overjoyed when you did that because we need it done. And I couldn't say it with a guy face. And we took that information and we passed it along to everyone on the team, and no one on our team or at our company will have that, period. And I stopped taking those meetings because it wasn't doing any work anyway. I don't need to spend my energy doing that. And then, we were done. And it's not an ideal situation, but it ultimately resulted in much better situations moving forward. And I wonder, like being on the internet, is there something that you can do to kind of set yourself up for success there? Have you found that there are ways to also like facilitate that kind of like covert work that people call gossip? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it is really tough because people like to hide behind the anonymity of the internet and behave however, right? But that's why finding community is so important.
Yes.
So, specifically in the guild, we have a lot of women that uplift and support each other constantly. If they see that, oh, I have like a goal of something in mind that I want to do, like people will be like, hey, how can I help you get there? Like maybe we can do collaboration, or maybe we can have a conversation, or we could submit for a panel together, or, anything that we can do to kind of build each other up. But yeah, you're right. Like how many times do we have to say something, but because somebody else says it, the message gets through. But having allies is a really big deal,
I want to step away for a moment from being female professionals in the games industry and talk a little more about playing games as women. I play a lot of tabletop role-playing games. I play a few video games. One of the things that interests me about games as a medium is that they're a great way to explore gender and sexuality. I don't always play female characters, but I can. Sometimes I like to play male characters for fun. You just like try it out. That's like a safe way to do that. I recently met a man who plays a lot of video games and plays a lot of video games where you have like open character creation. You like, RPGs where you make your own character, and he only plays as women. And he does that because that is a way to explore femininity without doing it in his real life. Like games create a space to do that. So I'm interested to know, I know I didn't like send you guys this question ahead of time, but I'm interested to know what you think about games as a way to explore femininity or as a way to explore masculinity. And if there are specific games where you've had that experience playing either a female character or a male character.
For us, it's LARP. Like,
Oh, baby, we LARP.
We 13-hour all night LARP. We LARP until the sun comes up. And I think in general, so many games are empathy engines. You putting yourself in somebody else's perspective to explore something in a space that hopefully is safe with people who you love around the table. And especially if you're physically stepping into that embodiment, for anybody who has LARPed before, being able to be in a room and be in space. We always create the peanut gallery, which is like the people who are watching the scene who might have a little bit of directorial or NPC ability in the scenes. And I find so often, especially if we're playing with one of our producers, Danny, inevitably what happens is Danny has created this lovely, sweet being, and I will protect them with my life. And that has turned into like an exploration for me of like the masculine protector role, which is really interesting, because I can do that in my real feminine body so oftenly. But the experience of that has impacted how I see the masculine roles that I previously have experienced in media in a new light, because I'm coming from it from a different perspective, having played a little bit in that space. And I love when people play role-playing games or games where they get to step behind a character. I love it when a video game comes out and the only option is to play a lady, right? Like, it's just like you're asking people to step inside of somebody else's perspective and explore the world through their lens. And I think that it can only, if you're open to it, lead to a more empathetic experience. And so therefore, I think it's actually really valuable to do that in ways that are safe and that are respectful, right? LARPing's great for anybody who hasn't tried. Oh, it's so good.
I think for me, like, because there were so few female protagonists, I always choose to play as a woman. If in any opportunity, whether it's like Oblivion, Morrowind, The Sims, Animal Crossing, anything like that. So, the first time I played like Tomb Raider, I was like, whoa, this is awesome.
Tomb Raider.
And also, like, it makes me think about like marketing for games, right? Like, because when I was growing up playing games, like, it's like, oh yeah, the pink DS for the girls, and they can only play Imagine Babysitter or whatever, and it's like
Barbie Horse Adventure.
Lizzie McGuire, all those games, right? So anytime those options were available to me, I'm like, I'm always gonna try and choose to be as closely something that I can relate to as possible. But now that you're kind of like mentioning it, I'm like, I wonder what it would be like to play The Sims as a man. You know?
Yeah.
Can I go on a short, like semi-pointless
Yes.
soapbox
Yes.
moment for a second?
Run.
Yeah.
So I don't do a lot of gender bending with characters. I don't actually play a lot of role-playing games. I like puzzle games. I'm weird. But one of the things I think more games need to have is options for things to be pink. Like this is a really silly hill that I will die on, but there's a reason for that, because I grew up in that era of you have to choose, like you will not be taken seriously if you are feminine. So you can be pretty or you can be smart, and that's it. Like those are your options, and you don't get to be both. And in my later years, you know, after the standard teenage girl rejection of like, oh, I hate pink because I'm better than other girls. I'm sure there's plenty of people in this room who have had that experience too. I'm like, actually, no, I love pink frilly things. And one of my favorite things to do is show up in these very serious spaces, whether this is like hardcore gamers or academics or whatever, and be like super annoyingly, obnoxiously pink. And I love to do that in video games too, where it's like, there are games, it's like, you can't even have a female character, fine. But I will make this character as pink as you will let me make them.
Pink.
And it's just like,
P-A-N-K.
it's fun. And it's this like moment of joy that I think is really great. So if you are making games, let me make things pink. Let me make more things pink. Come to my booth and get my sparkly pink business cards.
And I mean, I love that games have more like cute options. Like there's more like cute Pokemon like that are pink and like all that kind of stuff. And you know, like there was a time when that kind of stuff didn't exist.
Yeah.
You know?
We had a conversation about Pikmin right before this panel started that fits very well in with this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did. It's I've had to learn a lot about Pikmin. I never played the games, but I've now watched YouTube playthroughs of every single Pikmin game for business. And starting in the third Pikmin game, there is a pink one, and it has fairy wings.
Correct.
And it is true that like women play Pikmin, and I don't think they were thinking about that when they made the first Pikmin game. And I don't think they were thinking about that when they made the second Pikmin game either. It's very male coded. We won't get into it.
You know, I also love that in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, there's like some kind of girly looking outfits for Link to wear. You know?
Oh, yes.
I love that.
I thought Link was Zelda for the whole time I played as a kid. I was like, Link is a princess. Like, what do you mean? And then when I met Zelda, I was like, wait, what do you mean?
We've danced around this topic the whole time, and I promised/threatened Rowan that we would talk about it, so we're going to talk about it right now. A couple months ago, Rowan and I had dinner, and she mentioned that there are 3 types of Daggerheart characters, archetypes, and they fall into these categories. Just a little guy, real big lady, and baby girl. And maybe sometimes there's a 4th one called Man TM, but actually that's just a subset of baby girl. And I would like to unpack this from a feminist perspective.
This is actually my favorite thing.
It's my favorite thing in the world.
So, I don't know if you caught it, Elise called herself a real big lady. She's a real big lady.
It's my Daggerheart gender.
Real big lady. Just to be clear, in this, the lady, the man, the guy, all of those
neutral.
are not referring to their specific gender or even their masc or femme presentation. This is like your spiritual, how you're showing up. Real big lady is a character who can fucking handle it, got it done, got a spreadsheet. Probably.
When Rowan got up in the middle of the night and I
Oh my
thought
fucking
that
God.
she was an intruder, I was up and out of bed and going, "Excuse me." That's real big lady.
That's a real big lady. Just a little guy. That's Spencer on our team. He's our little guy. Is a frog on a lily pad. It's just a little guy. You're just hanging out. You're gonna be nice and sweet, and you're only throwing shit down when someone's mean to someone else. Definitely not for you. And then baby girl.
Rowan.
That's me. Baby girl is like kind of a brat, honestly.
Camping is a cabin with hot water.
Yeah, it's like femme. It's like, other people will handle it, and I'm gonna like start a fight, and then real big lady's gonna finish it. Or like if you throw down with me, we're both gonna die because I can't handle it. But like you're gonna be blind when we're done, and like dead because I will have scratched your eyes out. And then like man TM is a subset of baby girl because let's be like so fucking for real. Like man TM also
Can't handle it.
Why do we do that?
I think it just started coming about because I think that Rowan and I did something in Daggerheart that we weren't actually sure was going to pass muster. There's an image that we both worked so deeply on the prompt for, which is this large, giant, broad-shouldered samurai woman who is leaning with her arms sort of like on the wall, lovingly looking down at a shorter, pink-haired woman whose ponytail is up, which canonically means that either she was on her tippy toes and she slid down, or she was placed up and then was released. And we put this as the splash page, giant 2-page spread on chapter 2. And we were like, they're not gonna print it like this.
Actually, how it actually went is we were like, they're not going to print it like this. And Elise was like, they'll have to fire me. We're printing it like this. And I was like,
but then nobody said anything. And I was like, and like her cheeks are so soft and pink that you can feel like the peach fuzz on her face.
They're going to kiss.
And it's just, I've never felt like that big protector and full femme and like beautiful loving eyes and that maternal protector. I've never seen that.
But they're gonna kiss.
Like, and for me, I'm like, I'm gonna kiss her, right? Like it feels, and so like those delineations of real big lady, baby girl, just a little guy, it became sort of a mantra or a reclaiming of how we spoke about the art in the book that had nothing to do with real life, real stakes, actual of import delineations, because we could talk about them and it would be like with play, which is so important, especially when you're designing something that matters a whole lot.
I'm also like, I think maybe too queer to quantify it, but like it's also somehow inherently queer, and I can't like quite put my finger. Maybe it's because there's like only 3 and all the 3 are like wimbly wombly, and then like the 4th that is like the most straight feeling is actually still under a queer subset. I don't know, but it made talking about gender in Daggerheart really fun, and it remains like a good internal game for us all.
I think there's something really powerful about coding the strong character as female and coding the soft, quiet character as male, both in positive ways. And I think that gives opportunity and permission for players of all genders to kind of explore characters that they might not normally play, or they might not think that they're supposed to play.
That's like really thoughtful and smart. I wish I had you when we were talking about this at work.
When you just like said that, we were at dinner and you said this, and it was like something in my brain went off, and I was like, I have to, and I really needed to know more about man TM as a subset of baby girl, which you have now talked about. Thank you.
Yeah.
That like fascinates me, that the more like stereotypical man character is actually a subset of the more stereotypical female character, and it's the like soft, quiet, fun, just a little guy that is like the male coded one.
I feel like man TM is like anger's not an emotion, but like baby girl's like having a little fit, and everyone's like, okay, have a snack.
Yeah, I think Ash, you said something about like you're in a lobby or you're streaming a game and someone walks in and is like, well, I'm going to test their knowledge. The presupposed question under there is they do not belong if they don't know enough, and I've decided what that rubric is. Reclaiming what we talk about as gender, even as developers in the game and now publicly, since I think we made that joke at launch, changes the presupposed notion of what gender representation is, and it removes historical weight and it adds something in play when I speak to the either straight or queer men in my life as I've introduced them to Daggerheart, and I introduce the concept of real big lady, baby girl, just a little guy, I watch them go into a fantasy world where gender can be vibe and energy based and has nothing to do with their bodies. And I haven't seen that before. Or I haven't found a quicker way to do that. And so being able to have that play has allowed people who typically would be really stereotypical in their play buy into the fantasy, because I have so many guys who are like, oh, I'm baby girl. And it's like, yeah, you are.
You can be baby girl.
So hear me out, figure out what you are. If you're not sure, ask your friends. It's really fun because there's not a bad pick in the litter. Like, everyone's hot and cool and fun and probably has a sword. So, like, think about it.
Or a lily pad.
I think the sword is the most important part. I'm glad the swords are universal.
I think that was just said by a real big lady.
Ooh, do you know? Do you have...
Okay, no, wait, that's baby girl.
I have some folks I need to consult with.
Yeah.
I need to convene with the experts.
Pink is for everyone, so you can be like whichever and still have pink.
Yeah.
I am a firm believer in that one of the things that should be pink is big swords, also big guns and explosions. Like, I want both. I want to blow things up, and I also want my explodey device to be pink.
Anytime I see a Mandalorian and it's like Barbie-lorian, anytime I see a Hollow Knight and it's Barbie Knight, anytime anybody is barbifying or Hasbro pinking something, I am like, but this is actually how we might take down the patriarchy, though.
Barbie.
Yeah.
Hi, Barbie.
Yeah. I want to open it up to audience questions because we still have 11 minutes. Does anybody have a question? You can raise your hand and ask it, and then I'll repeat it into the microphone. Hey.
How you doing, ladies? I'm actually a writer, and I got a little offended earlier about the guys playing girls, because I'm one of those guys, because whenever I'm actually playing like an RPG game, I do for one reason, and it's because I want to be pretty. I want to be pretty. And when y'all actually create your games, because I mean, when you create your female characters, what kind of experience are you trying to give to the gamer?
So the first comment is, you want to play female characters because you want to be pretty.
That's real baby girl. I love that for you.
It's really baby girl. And the question is, when you are creating these games, creating these characters, what is the experience that you want to create for the gamer?
I try to give people a really broad palette, and the way that I experience being a girl is not the way my Elise experiences being a baby girl is not the way that some of our other friends experience it. So I'm trying to create as many open doors as I possibly can, so that when people put together a variety of different bits and bobs, they have someone that represents kind of the fantasy they're going for. So there's no one specific archetype that I'm aiming for.
I more think of it as representation in terms of, like, I want to make sure in the art that I made for my own game, I took some very specific archetypes that felt more masculine, and I represented them with someone who was female. So, like, the young apprentice being taught by the elder mage. How many times have you seen that in media, being like, it's just a little guy, and he's going off with the wizard, and he's going to learn how to be a sorcerer and save the day. And the imagery of that in art being, like, very specifically a young Puerto Rican girl who had a very specific hair texture and very specific clothing, worked with a cultural representative to, like, make sure that the clothing was correct. Those experiences touch real life as well as fantasy. So a lot of times you have to have an overlapping of both, because of course, unfortunately, we can't play just in a whole fantastical world. I'm always making sure that I can blend the things in the fantasy that are going to be fun for the player to engage with, and making sure that when I am having touchstones that touch real life, that they are done with respect, so that anybody who's seeing it feels an invitation into the game. Because you can be just a little guy who's going to learn from the wizard and be fucking so cute with pigtails and pink. Like, that's a story that you can tell.
If I can actually choose a woman, it would be a tall woman, because I like tall girls.
I also
wanna be,
like real big ladies.
You want to be a real big lady because you like tall girls. Yes. Who else has a question? Hello.
You're gonna do great.
But I'm merely a participant in the it has changed a lot, which is great. But I don't know the macro changes that are happening behind the scenes. I just see it slowly from the micro level. So you guys have done a lot from the micro level that is obviously snowballing. So what are the biggest changes you've seen on the macro level of women in gaming?
Okay, so the question is, what are the macro level changes in the gaming industry over time when it comes to women in gaming?
I've seen more women speaking on stages in the last 10 years than I did the previous 15 or 20 paying attention to this space. So I think that literally women and femmes being able to have a platform to speak is very different. If you look at like who was presenting gamer awards 10 years ago versus now, it's really different. And I think that's a marked change from how it has been in the past. And sometimes if you bully corporations who have HR departments into doing the thing that is there's moral weight behind it, inevitably you will change minds because you will be changing what is being seen. If you're looking for some of those macro ways things have changed, you can also just listen to how people talk about women in games. And even earlier yesterday, I was listening to something and I was like, oh, I haven't heard that since I was like 14. Like, oh, that sounds old. And it sounds old because it's not here anymore. So I think those are some some bigger ways that things have changed in gaming overall. And it's also not changing fast enough.
I have 3 things I want to share. So first thing, I want to say it's really cool that when Doug Bowser retired, now Devin Pritchard's taking over Super Nintendo. So there's a woman in charge there. That's really cool. And in my space for streaming, there's really amazing charity for esports, for getting women into esports. And not just esports like as players, but production. So camera people, people working OBS behind the scenes, doing all of the production. When I did a show at DreamHack, and I was one of the hosts. So that was cool. Me and someone named Gabby Durden, we did the hosting for the entire weekend on their main stage. So it was cool to watch her work. But there were a ton of women doing production behind the scenes, and that was really incredible. And one person that I look up to, Chelsea Bites, who's a broadcaster.
Oh my God, she's one of my best friends.
Yeah, I love her, and she is an inspiration to me. Like, she was one of the first Black women I saw on the front page of Twitch, and she's also a scientist, and she builds computers and gives them away for charity. And she's done a lot of hosting and stuff like that. So when I saw her, I was like, yo, I belong here. So seeing more women and women of color, do things in the streaming space and show that they belong is something that I've seen change over time.
I think also, you described these as macro changes, but I think really they are the result of a lot of micro changes. And I think two of the things you've touched on, so one of them is people like Elise using that capital to stand up and say, no, actually, we're going to do it this way, and just that happening over and over and over again, you're starting to see the effects of that. And the other thing is there's been recognition of a problem of the lack of women working in gaming, whether that's on the esports end, on the production end, whatever. And there's been recognition, and it's now been a while since kind of the first program started to try to address that. And I think we're now seeing the fruits of those seeds that were planted probably 15, 20 years ago. And it's finally kind of coming to bear, which I think is really, really cool. And I'm hopeful that we continue to see that.
Can I add one more thing that I think is so interesting, which I've just reminded that I saw the statistic the other day. Women are now graduating college at, I think, 110% higher rate than men. My mother had to apply for a house pretending that she was married to her gay best friend in 1985 because she wouldn't qualify for a mortgage. The other thing that's happening is women can get credit cards, women can apply for their own bank loans, women can have their own bank. And that is not ancient history. right? There are macro changes happening in the world that will obviously trickle down, especially if more women are getting education, not only here in the United States, but all over the globe. As technology expands and stuff like that, if there is health for women in spaces, there will be an opportunity for women to take up more space in every space that they're in. And surprise, I'm like, okay, I don't know if this has happened to you guys. Women run in my family. My mother was a woman. My grandmother was a woman. Same. If you look hard, you probably have women. There's a history of women in a lot of people's families, and so that is just an immutable fact. And the more ways in which we uplift those voices in every space, the more space there will be for those voices in every space.
And
I also think on the TTRPG side, specifically for game designers, I think we are a little bit behind the tech side, which is to say, I think the tech world, meaning like programming generally, and also a little bit more on the video game side, has been putting quite a lot of work into getting more women and POCs into the space. And I think TTRPGs aren't really quite there yet. And I have to do a lot of hiring of contractors for game design. And it is actually measurably harder to find game designers that are women and POCs, and that is not because people don't have the skills, it's because they didn't have the privilege. Because TTRPGs are something you spend a fuck ton of time doing when you're young if you don't also have to have a job. And I was told that I wasn't good at math in second grade when I was perfectly fine at math. I was just a girl. And I'm really good at English, and I've been allowed to kind of sneak into game design because I was a good writer. And I can find women that are confident writers and aren't confident at mechanics because they were also told that they weren't good at math. And so now that I have the job that I have, and people like a lot of the men that I work with who are paying a lot of attention to this are in the positions we're sitting down and we're going, okay, how can we put in the work to set people up to learn, because they weren't able to do it when they were 13, like a lot of, frankly, white men were able to. So I think TTRPGs are a little bit behind, and I think we are going to continue to see the effects of that for a little while. And the conversations that we're all having are frustrating because I want the result right now, and I want it yesterday. So I just want to flag that because it's something that I am frustrated by and also hopeful about.
I want to take another question because I did see a hand up. I saw your hand. So what's the greatest challenge that you've experienced in this space that you were able to overcome?
Mine kind of manifested by a thing that my grandmother used to say. She was off the boat from Calabria, which is like the arch of the boot in the heel of Italy. And she would say, "Più la paga, più vale," which means the more that you pay for it, the more that it's worth. And I didn't know what that fucking meant for a really long time until as a freelancer, I started trying to negotiate my rates. You know what you're worth. You know what you are worth, and unfortunately, you often know what other people are paid. One of the things that we talk about a lot at work is like, hey, there's a ceiling sometimes with salaries, or there is a ceiling with freelancer rates. We are trying to make a tide that lifts all boats. And if I am negotiating for myself, I am also always negotiating for the people around me. And with individual success can also come group success. The hardest thing that I did early on in my career as a tailor for film and television in New York City for over a decade. When I started raising my rates, I was treated better because the people saw me as more valuable because they were paying me more. It's really hard, especially a decade ago in New York. That is not the film scene that's in New York right now. It's an entirely different ecosystem that we're living in. There are opportunities where you will have to say what you are worth, and I highly, highly recommend each and every one of you figure out what that and sometimes in capitalism it's a number, sometimes it's opportunity, sometimes it's insert value here. Make sure you know what you're worth and know where you are willing to take that stand, because people will see you as the worth that you say to them that you are.
That is so real.
It sucks.
Yeah. And I think similarly, because one thing that I will say, especially in the creator space, like that is 100% true. Like people pocket watch you, but then also like a lot of imposter syndrome exists.
Yep, I was just gonna say that.
Yeah. So when people come to like someone like me and they're like, "Hey, we want to sponsor your broadcast," it's like, you know, big company, Nintendo, Capcom, you know, whatever, and they're like, what's your rates? And people don't know how to do that. But I always tell people, aim high.
Yeah.
Whatever number scares you, just do it.
Add a 0.
Yeah.
If you're talking to Nintendo.
Yeah. And then you know what? If you got to negotiate down, it's no big deal. You know, I never thought that I would be able to do something like that. And those were some challenges. But I think just to answer your question, like I think specifically like legit just like exist and do really well, because being a content creator is extremely difficult. And I have gotten to a space where this is my business and it's a successful one. And I never thought that I would be able to do what I'm doing and sit here and talk to all of you amazing people in a room like this. So just existing, you know, that's my big win.
Yeah, I think I want to second your imposter syndrome comment, Ash. If anybody has found a cure for imposter syndrome, please come see me after the panel. I would like to be your new best friend. I work in academia. I am a scientist. If you meet a scientist who does not have imposter syndrome, they are lying to you. It is terrible. And just like Ash said, the best bulwark against that is knowing what you're worth, is having kind of hard data, right? And that's also helpful when like people try to be nasty and be like, you don't belong here. I'm like, okay, like which program is your PhD from? Like, sorry, but like I am more qualified than you. That honestly, that piece of paper goes a long way. But the other thing that I have, and one of the things I've found most helpful, is this like really corny like Pinterest quote, which is show up in every moment like you're meant to be there, where it's like, and the corollary of like that brilliant con woman syndrome, where it's like, yeah, maybe I am a fraud, but I defrauded all these people, so like that's on them.
That's how I became MAGFest staff. I just showed up like I was meant to be there. I did my very first panel in this room accidentally. The panelists didn't show up. I wasn't even a volunteer. I just did the panel. And now I'm here. Now I'm back.
Like,
Let's go.
I got invited to be on this panel with all these people with these huge audiences who have like made these giant culturally impactful things. And it's like the biggest thing I ever did was like literally I made a big hat. And I'm like, I don't know why I'm here, but you know what? I'm here and I'm having a great time.
It's not MAGFest without the big hat, okay?
It's not. Oh, I just would piggyback off of that and say you're never ready. You are never going to think you're ready. Just say yes anyway. Like I got to direct a film overseas in Ireland because I said that I could.
Yeah.
And when they were like, oh, great, what's the script? I said, I don't know, I haven't written it yet. And that was like the audacity that got that for me. And when Spencer was like, oh, come work on this game with me, I was like, I sure don't know how to design a game. And I just said yes anyway. Like you have to say yes before you think you're ready. And one of the best ways I found to combat that is to put the reps in on your own time. You are, if you want to make money doing anything creative or kind of in this space, you are at some point going to have to decide that you will do an amount of work for free. I'm not saying you have to work for companies for free, but you have to sit down for yourself and put in the reps, and no one's going to be paying you for it, and you're going to be tired or whatever. And I don't think art has to be a sacrifice. You can do art for fun and it can never cost anything, but capitalism demands a sacrifice. And for people to be able to say like, I want to hire you, you have to have put in the reps to be hireable. So I think that's probably a big antidote for that for me anyway.
There's like a statistic that men will apply for a job if they meet 50% of the qualifications, and women will apply if they meet 100% of the qualifications. And to all the women in the room, please apply for jobs that you meet 50% of the qualifications for, and just believe that you can do 100%. We're out of time, but I want to quickly let everyone remind the group of your names and tell them where they can find your work.
Sure. My name is AshSaidHi. You can find me everywhere on social media. That's Twitter, TikTok, Threads, Twitch, YouTube, as AshSaidHi. And my website, ashsaidhi.com.
My name is Erin J.K. Truesdell, like just kidding. I am the opposite of Ash. I am a hermit. I have a website. It is erinjktruesdell.com. That is where you can find me, or probably standing under the big hat at wherever the big hat can be found.
Currently in Indie Arcade.
Yeah.
Go to the Indie Arcade. It's so fun. My name is Rowan Hall. You can find me everywhere on the internet at the Rowan Hall. You can also check out our game, Daggerheart. It's sold at the Crit Roll store, as well as Candela and the new expansion that's coming out next year.
My name is Elise Rezendes. I hope you do not find me, but you can find my work at Daggerheart. Daggerheart.com. A lot of the stuff that we do there is the Void work, where we are putting out playtest things all the time that might or might not escape. And then otherwise, we're going to be around here for another day and hopefully at other conventions.
But don't find her.
But don't find me. I'll find you.
And I'm Silviana Russo. You can find my work at Magstock, MAGFest's camping convention, festival, not a convention. MAGFest's camping festival in the woods in June. Thanks, everybody.